Yes, people, welcome. My name's Pete the Temp, and I'm very happy to share with you my new loop station setup that I've made out of a guitar case. On YouTube, I was unable to find any other tutorials on how to do these things with guitar cases, and I don't really know why that is. These are cheap, relatively cheap, efficient, thin and sturdy ways to carry your gear around, whether you're a street musician, whether you're a looper like me, whether you have lots of pedals and or synths or whatever technical stuff you want to carry around in here. So you can just take off the lid and everything is plugged in and ready to rock and roll. You just put it into the mains and literally you're cooking on gas. This is especially suited for me because I've got lots of large pedals. This is a looper, Chaos Pad, some other stuff. So I wanted lots of space, but I didn't want to use one of those flight cases, those carry cases, which are incredibly expensive, relatively incredibly expensive, and also more to the point, they're really heavy. And they're really large, and it's pretty impractical if you've got this much gear, which is a fairly modest amount of stuff, but it's impractical putting it on coaches. I also work as a street musician, and it was just too large to get that and an amp onto a trolley. It was really heavy. The main benefit of those things, as far as I can see, is to fly with them, because they can be thrown around in hold luggage. And they're going to be safe. This, personally, I wouldn't recommend this wooden guitar case for hold luggage, because it's made of wood and it's a bit more brittle. But if you're like me and you only fly occasionally, that's not a problem. All of these pedals are detachable. I'm going to be explaining to you in this tutorial how you can make all this stuff detachable. So if you want to travel without the case, you can do that very easily. And I've used a few different types of using techniques of applying dual lock, which is an industrial Velcro. Which means that even really large pedals like this are super secure, and you can turn this upside down and flip it around and nothing's going to happen to your gear. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration how this all fits together. I've made the lid of this guitar case detachable so that I can use this for merchandise. I can play with everything in it, and I can use this somewhere else for merchandise or signage or whatever it is. And it's got this lining in it still here, and I've taken off the existing hinges so I can make it detachable. They're usually put on with things like rivets, so you need to kind of like pry them out with a screwdriver. It's a bit of a ball ache, but you can get them out without too much difficulty. And I've screwed in my own hinges here. There are two types of detachable hinges. One of them is a hook over hinges like this. You can see it's basically just got a little hook, or they're sliding hinges, and they're very easy to use. As you can see, just put it in 90-degree angles, and hey presto, you lock the case as you would any normal guitar case. These usually comes with locks as well, so if you want putting it in the hold luggage of a coach, it's going to be nice and safe. Bit of extra security, and there you go. You've got your you've got basically here everything ready to go in a nice handy little guitar case. So that's everything there, super easy, and it's sturdy enough, to be honest. It's sturdy. As I say, if it's just been thrown in the back of a van, or you're traveling on public transport, or whatever it is you're doing, other than flying, you'll be fine. Even if you are flying, I think there's a strong case to be made for using a plastic version of this, which is plastic, of course. A plastic guitar case is going to be less brittle than wood, so depending on what you've got inside, you may be happy doing that. And I haven't found anybody else who's doing any guitar cases like this, but I'd be interested to know if anybody wants to make a plastic one, because they are less brittle, as I mentioned. I quite like the lining of this wooden one, and I wanted to screw some stuff in, but to be honest, you could screw stuff into a plastic one as well. So a little bit of details on how I selected this. This is an electric guitar case, because that was a bit smaller, so it suited my dimensions a bit better. The internal dimensions are 100 centimeters by 34 centimeters, and that gives me lots of space you could also get a bass guitar one if you wanted more space, or an acoustic guitar one. I've got a bit of extra space down here. I keep my CDs in there. You could also put some cables in there. Usually your setup grows, right, so you might have an extra couple of pedals you want to fit in, something like that. So loads of space. I've got my 4-way down here, everything's plugged in. That goes down into the power. That's my mic cable. This will go down into for my guitar. I'll plug into the desk or the amp or whatever it is you're using. This is for my foot pedal, so I can activate my foot pedal for use on using the guitar on this tabletop looper. And again, this setup is really good if you have a tabletop setup. If you're using foot pedals, which are actually foot pedals, and you want to use them with your feet, I use all these with my hands. I would suggest using a plastic guitar case, because that's, as I say, is going to be less brittle, and because you're going to be stamping on top of it. I would be happy doing that. So yeah, this is my little clip-in microphone, and that's ready to rock and roll. Within 30 seconds you can be plugged in and making music, which is kind of handy if you're a street musician, or if you don't want to spend that extra 5 minutes setting up and taking down. I don't know about you, but I've wasted many years of valuable life unrolling cables and plugging them in, and breaking cables and spend a fortune on these bloody power pack adapters, with everything just being there. Every time I want to rehearse, within seconds everything is there, nothing's being touched, and it's going to last a lot longer. You're going to save a lot of money on your gear. This is a nice little clip-in microphone holder, which I'm quite proud of. I'm going to show you how I did that later. First of all, how did I get all of this in securely so that it's not going to move around, and it's detachable if I want to take it on a flight or something like that? Okay, there's basically three different techniques of applying dual lock, which is industrial Velcro. Now, there are actually loads of different tutorials on using dual lock on YouTube. I've used 3 different types, which are really handy for really large pedals like this. The first one is a simple sort of strip on the top, strip on the bottom. Dual lock is really expensive. It's like £10 a metre, and you're actually only getting half a metre of surface space, because it's the same on the top and the bottom, unlike normal Velcro. It's really, really secure, so you don't need much of it. Really, really small amounts. This is probably more than I need, even for this relatively heavy little Boss guitar synthesizer. This is an SYB5, in case you're interested. I'm actually going to be doing a walkthrough of all of my hardware and turning it on and showing you how I link it all together. If you're interested, subscribe and have a look at that video as well. And if you want to see any of the music that I make with this setup as well, you can find that on this channel. So yeah, this is basically top bottom. With dual lock, it detaches really firmly. Once you've locked it in there, you're not going to be able to pull that out. I can literally almost, I'm actually lifting the entire case there. That's not going anywhere. It comes off when you take it off at an angle, and that happens very easily. So that's just a strip on the top, strip on the bottom. Now the lining for this guitar case is glued on. Okay, it's not very thick glue, but it is glued on, so you want to get rid of that, because you don't want to be sticking down it onto anything which is wet or dirty or greasy, right? So the way I get around that is I've got this is a sticky stuff remover. I think this is about £3 in Maplins, and yeah, you put it on the surface, leave it there for about 5 minutes, and then just get one of those scouring pads, and it'll take any glue that you've got off there, and then you can leave it to dry and stick on your dual lock. Also, my 4-way for electric is done with the same thing. Again, it's tiny little amounts only, just to keep that on. And that's locked in. That's got a little mixer here if I want to jam with someone else. I've got extra input capacity there. This is the heaviest thing. This is a Chaos pad, KS35. This is the heaviest thing in here. It's a massive chunk of metal, and obviously I don't want this to be rattling around or have the risk of this coming off or moving in my thing. So I'll just show you how I've done it. that I learned from somebody on YouTube is to screw them in. These are little flaps, they're not stuck down. I've just got little flaps of dual lock, and I've screwed them in using the existing screws on the bottom of your pedal. And you can make little holes. I mean, I made a little guide hole with a drill into the dual lock. But you could probably do it with whatever. Just get a hole, drill it, screw in your flaps, and what you've got is actually under here I've got a little raised platform. This is a bit of super putty, which means it just lifts the flap just a little bit higher from the surface, so that it's higher than the height of the actual screws. It's also got a little raised bit here. What that means is it's going to actually connect when you put it down. It's going to connect with the dual lock on the other side. Okay, so it's better to have flaps that are not stuck down, because then again it enables you to rip it off and get that leverage, get that angle that you need to take dual lock off at an angle, because you can't just pull it up at 90 degrees. It won't come off because it's so fucking strong. I mean, look, this is a really heavy piece of metal for its size, and it's 4 tiny bits of dual lock. This is really all you need. And again, even though they're not stuck down, they're flaps, they're loose flaps, because they're screwed in. That ain't going anywhere. Once it locks in, that is safe and secure. That's not going anywhere, and all of your cables are nice and safe. So the third way to attach, this is a large piece of gear here, pops off nice and easily. And it's attached with just a small square of dual lock here on the top and the bottom. Now, again, to get the leverage that I need to take the dual lock off at an angle, I've got it's another technique I stole off somebody. I'm sorry, I can't remember their names off YouTube. Is to create a little raised platform of your dual lock, so you've got a bit of a fulcrum there, and this is the best part of 1 centimetre high off the board. And you can see I've just made a little sandwich here of dual lock. I actually heated up on the top of a hob the sticky stuff when I took the back off, just to make the sticky sort of backs of these a bit better gluing, just for added security. I've just top and bottom there attached to a layer of dual lock on the bottom, which gives me a little detachable kind of platform there for the dual lock, and then a corresponding, just a single layer of dual lock on the top, and that's enough for this entire large pedal. And as I say, that's not going anywhere. But of course, because it's on a fulcrum, it's going to slide around a little bit, and it's going to move if you tap it on the side. So I've just stuck down a little bit of foam insert here. That anybody who's made a pedal board will be familiar with these foam inserts. It's had sticky back on the side, so I was able just to stick it down. But you can get sort of double-sided sticky tape that might be well for that. And also I've got these are little side brackets that I got off eBay for about £2. I've just pinned them in actually, and that was enough just to keep them in place. These are drawing pins, and yeah, as you can see, that just pops in there. And again, that's not going anywhere. This is something I'm really proud of. This is my little guitar, my microphone holder. This is a tool holder, or it might be a broom holder, but you can find these on eBay. This is one of the larger ones, and as you can see, that just slots in there, clips in, and then you can put it down so it doesn't move at all. And I've just screwed that into the wood on the side, and actually managed to keep some of the side lining and padding, so it all looks super sexy. And then finally, I've also got this guitar pedal. This slots in here. This is kept in place by a larger side bracket that I got off eBay. It's about 5 by 5 centimeters, and it's got dual lock on the bottom, which is corresponding with a layer just underneath the felt here, so it keeps the lining in. Just pop it in there, and then you've got sort of vertical storage there for your pedal. It needs to go in a little bit further this way, and there you go. That just pops in there super easy, so it all goes in nice and snug. So yeah, I hope that's of interest. I'd be very interested to hear of anybody who's done this with a a plastic guitar case. In retrospect, I might have done that. They're less sexy than this kind of nice tweed lining that you've got, but they are not made of wood, so they're arguably less brittle. I think I may have seen DubFX using this setup, I'm not entirely sure, but certainly if you're a looper like me, and this is a tabletop looper, I use it with my hands, this goes on a table, this is perfect. And even if I was still using it as pedals, I would still use it, but I would use a plastic guitar case. So have a play around with it. Any comments, welcome. Subscribe. You could see this, as I say, I'm going to do another video with taking you through turning this all on and seeing how all this fits together. And I've also got lots of songs if you want to see it in action. And this is, yeah, it's my new toy here basically. When I was a kid, I remember I used to make little spaceships out of cardboard boxes, and I would make a little window in the front, and I would draw a little control panel, and I'd sit inside of it and pretend I was in deep space. And I don't think anything has changed. I've been Pete the Temp. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.